Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the latest pickup for my home arcade, the Williams Classic Smash TV. So now that I've started picking up more full-size actual arcades, I do have limited space. Yes, it's true. But I have to be very selective with what I'm choosing to put down here. And when I made my wish list, Smash TV was on it, because classic twin stick shooter, two-player twin stick nonetheless, and specifically this version of Smash TV, which I like to call the deluxe version with the 25-inch screen and the large pedestal deck here. There was a 19-inch version that was a little more common, great looking machine, but when I think Smash TV, this is the one I think. Now this was on my wish list, and no joke, like a week later, I saw one for sale on Facebook Marketplace in my home state, like less than an hour away from where I live. So I wasn't really ready to buy another arcade, but I jumped on it. And I called the seller, said I was very interested, and they said they were about to go out of town, but maybe when I got back, or when they got back, that I could come look at it. But I didn't want to let this slip out of my hands. Like I said, it was on my short list, and it was right in my backyard. So I said, I will come get it same day. Is there anything wrong with it? In the pictures, I saw it was a little sun faded with the decals, and they're like, no, it's great. It's perfect. It works great. Like, great, I will be right up. And of course, that evening after work, I had car trouble. So I said I couldn't make it, but I was sending payment digitally, and I was sending movers to pick it up for me. I was gonna buy this thing sight unseen. And that made the sellers a little nervous. And then on top of that, all of a sudden they wanted more money than they had originally asked for it. And it was like a whole mess. I was on the phone, like trying to here's my YouTube channel, here's my ID, here's my home address, here's a picture of me standing in front of my mailbox just to get them to release it to the movers. And the whole while there's nothing wrong with it, there's nothing wrong with it. Well, I finally get it, and there are things wrong with it. It had video errors, there was glitches on the screen, we'll talk about that. It was missing the key, I had to break into it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love working on these things, and I expect some things to be wrong with them when they're this old, and they've had this many owners and this much wear and tear. But it's the fact that they thought I was gonna screw them over, whereas the whole time they were telling me there was nothing wrong with it. There was plenty wrong with this thing. So, it just kind of got my goat a little bit. But, anyway, I got it, and that's really all that mattered to me. It was in my house, and it was ready for me to just start looking into it, see what I could fix, see what I could mod. And I'm gonna go through those things that I did to it with you now. And yeah, let's go ahead and start right away with the problems. Okay, first of all, I just want to note that my movers here, they were great. They told me that these buyers were all weirded out by them showing up without me there, and they wouldn't let them load up the arcade cabinet until somebody had come and taken pictures of their driver's licenses and their license plate. And now, mind you, they'd already been paid at this point. They were just really weirded out, and thankfully my movers took it all in stride and just laughed it off. Okay. Arcade that did not come with keys, but is locked. Let's see what I can do. So when I called them to ask if maybe they just forgot the key, they said, no, it never had one. Which, of course, it had one. They just lost it. So this is me wrestling with it to try to get in. But then we come to our one big problem here. On boot up, you immediately see that one of the RAM chips fails its check. And the problem with that is that's a video RAM chip, and while the game does then continue to boot, you can take a look at the picture quality is just awful. The picture is all pixelated and the colors are all smeared, so that's the first thing I needed to address.
Good luck. You'll need it.
So I was able to locate the bad chip on the main board, and thankfully I was able to find a replacement on eBay for just a couple of bucks. So when that replacement chip came in, I lined it up, and sure enough, it looks like it's a direct replacement. The only problem is that the original chip is soldered to the board, and I don't own a decent desoldering gun. So I had to wang jangle this chip off using wire cutters and screwdrivers and solder wicks, and it was a nightmare, but I did get the chip off. So to make sure I would never have to mess with desoldering another one of these chips in case it went bad or I messed up the install or I just got a bad chip in the mail, I went ahead and soldered on a socket on this spot. That way I can just plug the chip in, and if I ever need to replace it, it's easy to swap it out again. So I'm just cleaning up the spot there with some isopropyl alcohol, and here's my new socket. So we're just going to go ahead and plug our replacement chip in,
And it's a nice snug fit, and let's cross our fingers. I went ahead and got the board remounted back into the cabinet, and then plugged the soundboard, power, all of the I/O back into it, and now it was time for the moment of truth. And yes, we have a green light on U23. All right, and look, all of our colors are back. Red and blue and green and all of our favorites, and none of them are smudged and nothing's digitized anymore. Everything's looking great. And now it was time to have a little fun. I picked myself up a couple JROK boards and a Jamma splitter with some Jamma extension cables, and I wired up my cabinet to play a couple more twin stick games. So with this Jamma switcher, all you do is hold player 1 and player 2 at the same time. It actually cuts power to the first board and turns on power to the next board. And the next board I've gotten here is Robotron 2084, the classic twin stick shooter. Now I hit these buttons again and it switches to my second JROK, which I have running the classic game Krull. Man, I love this game. Now, I loved this movie as a kid, and it took me forever before I even knew that this game existed. Originally, it was a vertical screen game with twin stick. The JROK does let you play it on a widescreen, so the aspect ratio is a little wrong, but the gameplay is fantastic. It's just a series of 4 levels, and then it will repeat those 4 levels over and over again, just getting harder and harder. So here I am just throwing a quick clip of each of the 4 levels. As you save your men and make your way to the beast castle to save the princess. And then this is the final level where you have to avoid the beast and save the princess. And this is the first playthrough, so this is the easiest mode. It does get harder and harder after this. You just gotta rack up that high score. So what a great game. And the next thing to address was the cosmetics. So I got a whole new set of artwork from Escape Pod Online that included a new marquee, new side art, new control panel art, and new bezel art. Unfortunately, the new marquee and the new bezel were both just a hair too wide for the cabinet. This must have been a mistake on Escape Pod's end, so they were just maybe a 1/16 of an inch too wide. So what I did is I just took a Dremel and I cut the edge off and made for a much better fit. And you don't even see that rough edge when it's tucked into the side there. Now for the bezel, the Escape Pod Online art package actually includes a neat option to put the bezel art that was originally made for the 19-inch version of the arcade cabinet on the 25-inch deluxe version. So that's what I did. The only problem is that the cameras that were off screen on the 19-inch version actually superimpose on top of the screen on the 25-inch version, and it really blocks your view and makes it kind of hard to play. So what I did is I actually just cut away portions of those cameras, and that way it doesn't block any of your view, and you still have a really good idea that these are cameras looking on the screen a lot like the 19-inch version looked. Then all that was left is to get rid of this crappy yellow T-molding and get some bright red T-molding on here. And it's done. So here is the finished product. My Smash TV cabinet. It's hard to believe that this is what it looks like now, whereas this is what it looked like when I first got it. But yeah, I couldn't be happier with this.
Well, that about wraps things up for my Smash TV pickup story. Thanks for tuning into the channel. If you like this kind of content, there's more coming where this came from. So go ahead and subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next video.